I'm Sid, and these are my best friends. My mom, Kim, my dad, Ty, my sister, Maddie, and our salty dog, Stella. We started our adventure refitting a Lagoon 450 before taking on the massive project of resurrecting a sunken 2021 Leopard 50. It's been one heck of a ride, but we're on this adventure to die with memories, not dreams, and live dauntless.
Ty, what are you doing?
A little safety wow.
Are you stealing an anchor?
I'm stealing an anchor.
I'm borrowing an anchor. You want to put a Mantis M1 on the 50, and I don't know which size is going to fit, and I could go and make big cardboard templates and do all of that nonsense, or I could just borrow our old anchor off of our old boat and take it over and put it on the new boat and see if it fits or not. So this is a 105. I believe Mantis recommends the minimum of an 85-pound M1 anchor for a 45-foot above cat. So we decided to go up one size on the 45. On the 50, I'd like to go up again. Go from a 120 or a 105 to a 125, but we'll see what fits. All right, Mike, you ready?
Work smarter, not harder.
That thing is comically big. Back up just a little bit.
So I do find it quite ridiculous that a boat this size comes standard with this anchor.
Well,
When
it's just
really-
going out for like a lunch day anchor.
Yeah, but this boat wasn't a charter boat. I don't know. It's just the size of that difference is
Pretty
comical.
ridiculous.
It's comical.
All right, guys, if you had a 50-foot cat, I want to know what size anchor you'd put on your boat. Leave me a comment and tell me what you think that we should put on the boat. Me? I think I'm going to put the biggest one that fits.
You're so strong.
Strong like bull. Smart like tractor. All right. All right, so Mike and I are going to go up and grab this chain, and we're going to lift it and see if it'll fit in the roller.
To bring your musculos, yeah?
Yeah? All right. Do it.
So fitting an anchor, or sizing an anchor, isn't as straightforward as you think it would be. First of all, there's so many dimensions to take into account, like how long is the shank, how far is it going to come up into the boat, will the roll bar hit something? And as you can see us trial fitting, what we're adjusting is the shank in and out of the windlass locker. The shank on this big 105-pound Mantis actually extends up farther than we want, and I'm going to have that problem with the 125-pound as well. Also, when we pull the anchor all the way in, the roll bar hits the separation between the trampolines, and that's not going to work either. So the plan is this. We'll get a roller extension that will stick out farther forward than the existing roller. That'll allow something to support the entire length of the shank of the anchor and allow it to pull nice and tight and secure when we're underway. We'd like to give a big shout out to Carrie and Scott. Thank you guys so much for letting us borrow the anchor. It was super helpful. We can't wait for you to get out there on the water and enjoy your adventures.
Okay, so it's a typical boat project and there's a snafu.
So we're looking through all of the hardware, right? We put the diamonds on the mast. We're getting ready to put a bend in it. We're making sure that all of our shrouds are together and everything is all set. What?
Preface really quick. So we got the mast and all of the rigging, I don't know.
June. May or June. We got it in June.
Months ago.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
We didn't want anything to get lost or separated or walk away or anything like that. So we kept everything all buttoned up nice and tight from the way it was delivered, which was good. Nothing walked away. Everything was great. But we didn't inspect everything completely until we got ready to use it.
In hindsight, we should have opened the boxes, checked
Yeah.
everything was here, and then closed them back up again.
But even still, had we checked everything was here, we wouldn't have caught this problem. So here's the problem.
No.
Here's the problem.
Here's the rub. Here's the rub.
Go ahead.
All right, the rub is this, is that this boat has multiple different size wires, and all those wires have different size toggles and eyes. Those are the things that go over top of what we call a tang or a hard mounting point. And then there's a pin, a clevis pin that goes through there. So I'm checking everything, and we have quantity on everything. We have all the cables, we have all the toggles, we've got all the eyes, but I'm missing 4 or 3 pins, 3 out of the 4 pins that have the turnbuckles that you tighten to tension the mast. And so I call the factory, and they happen to be there today, which is awesome.
Well, not Robertson and Kane. So the mast came from
US Spars.
US Spars, which is the US division of Z Spar, who is the one that actually does the mast from the factory. So we called the company here in the United States, in Gainesville actually, just across the state, that built this mast and put it together for us. They were in today, which is amazing because this is New Year's Day observed.
Yeah,
So
it was awesome.
now that you have the history, continue on.
So anyway, to make a long story longer, I call and say, hey, I'm missing 3 20 mil pins. And she says to me, you shouldn't need 3 20 or 4 20 mil pins. What are you talking about? Those are 22 mil. I said, no, they're 20. So we went through all the measurements, and I think they mismade a couple things on accident. It's not bad because they just oversized everything.
Which oversized is better than undersized, right?
Which is fine. However, the problem or the rub is that they only have half of the parts in stock, so they can send them to us, and they could even overnight them. We could have them tomorrow or the next day. The problem is that half the parts come from the manufacturer. I don't know where Hain manufactures their stuff is, or if it's in the U.S. or overseas, but we're on hold. So we will not be putting the mast up tomorrow. Wah, wah. We have plenty of stuff to do. We're going to finish assembling the mast. We're going to do...
Outside of the parts that we're missing. It's fine. I'm not bitter, I'm better.
Don't be a negative Nancy. And then we're going to finish cleaning up the props and tidying up the bottom and some other stuff that we're going to show you over on the bottom of the boat. So we're still getting stuff done. We're just now going to have to stand the mast in the water. And that's all right.
Another day.
Yeah, that's for another day.
Yeah. But now we're actually going to put the bend in the mast.
Yeah, this is going to be so cool. So these masts, you would think that the mast is straight up and down, but it actually, if this is the front of the boat, it actually kind of curves just like that. And there's a measurement, so it's basically the thickness of the mast, about 3/4 to 1 times the thickness of the mast is how much curve you want in it. So we do that by tightening the outer diamonds that actually takes the straight mast and it makes it bend. It's actually really cool to see. We're going to do that right now, and we're going to use this string to make sure that we're doing it correctly and it's straight and all that fun jazz.
Or bent, as it were.
Yeah, and if I get lucky here, I'm going to put up a camera so you can actually watch it happen.
Hopefully you'll see the bend happen.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Let's get to it.
It's actually called a rake. It's not called a bend. So that
No, it's bend. Rake is how it leans on the boat.
Oh.
Bend it's bend and rake.
We'll just cut that part out. Okay, great.
All right, so I'm gonna have to pause and get bigger wrenches because this little wrench, this here to stick in the turnbuckle to try to pry it through, is just, I don't know, force. I got like red marks on my hands. So bigger wrenches, bigger hammer, better tool. Be back.
All right, it might be kind of hard to tell what's going on here, but I'm at the bottom of the mast, tightening the turnbuckles, which is pulling tension on these outer cables, these ones right here. Kim is sitting in the middle of the mast where it the apex of the bend's going to be, and she's measuring from the string, which we've run underneath the mast, to the bottom of the mast to see how much bend we're able to put into it as I tighten each individual side. It's a little bit of a tedious process, but this is what we're trying to come up with. All right, so we need 13, that's better. We need 13 3/8. So either that much or between 3/4 of this much and this much is how much bend we should have in the mast from end to end. Times 0.75, 10 inches is where we want to aim at. And I think if we need any more, we'll do it when it's on the boat. Another 1/2 inch. I'm just taking some extra slack out.
Of the inner diamonds.
Yeah, the outer diamonds, the mast is straight. The inner diamonds also help line the mast up to be straight. But the tops, the way the geometry of the mast is built, the tops are a little shorter and a little tighter. So I'm just tightening the bottom inner diamonds to match the top. Once I get it even all the way around, then I'm gonna eyeball the mast and I'm gonna incrementally have equal rotations all the way around to be able to snug that up so that we get a nice tight isolation or triangulation or isometric, fancy like straight mast stuff. I'm lost for words right now.
Technical.
So anyway, just want to make sure that everything is evenly tight is the whole goal.
Our original prop speed didn't fare very well over the last year. It got gouged from the cleaning service trying to clean the barnacles and hard growth off of it, so we decided to take it down to the raw bronze. So what you're seeing here is Maddie taking our cordless right angle die grinder with a red Scotch-Brite on it. That's allowing her to go over every surface of the bronze props and take off the prop speed, the primer for the prop speed, and any additional buildup or growth that ended up on there over the last year. We've decided to leave the props just plain bronze. We're going to be in clean water soon enough, and we should be able to keep them nice and shiny with a weekly wipe down.
So I am taking a pick right now and going through. I don't know if you can see this one right here. There's a little bubble right in the bottom paint, and if I take the pick in there, can you see the water coming out of it? Can you see that?
I don't know.
If I wipe it, you can see it. But there's a little, they're not blisters, but the little pockets of water underneath the bottom paint above where our repair was, where from the factory they built it all in polyester. And we used epoxy for the repair. So I'm just going through with the pick and picking the bubbles and seeing where the water is, and then I'll go back with the die grinder and grind out the little pockets, and then we'll fill them if they're super deep, which I think we're gonna have to fill most of them, and then with epoxy fairing, and then we will barrier coat and bottom paint them again so that it will be like new.
And why is that important to do?
If you don't catch this and say like in a year or two we hauled out again, there would be little blisters through into the fiberglass, which is not what we want. So to prevent any fiberglass repair in the future, we're just going to pick them out now while they're not a problem, and then fair them and then barrier coat and bottom paint over them again to prevent further worse damage. And just to reiterate and be super crystal clear, this is all above where our repair was. On this side, the repair line is about right here, and we used epoxy fairing, and from the factory they use epoxy fairing, oh my goodness. We used epoxy resin, and they use polyester resin in the factory, which is where all of these little spots are. Right.
All right, what you're seeing here, we got a little bit of clarification on. They're actually not traditional blisters, which is water coming into the, into the fiberglass. What it really is what they call a solvent blister. When we put the barrier coat on, it was so damn cold in Georgia that we were wearing hats and jackets and gloves and what have you. When we put that on, we waited the prescribed amount of time to add the second layer. The problem is it was so cold that all the solvent didn't get out.
So when you add a secondary layer, it traps a little bit of solvent in on the inside. That causes it to peel up a little bit and allow water to pass through, which is what you're seeing. So no damage to the boat, no harm, no foul. We were able to clean it up, sand them out, and redo the barrier coat again, but that's what it is. It's solvent blisters, not saltwater blisters. Hope that helps. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you're liking the videos, we would really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and hit that bell down there so you get a notification next time we post a video. All right, guys, one last thing. The Miami Boat Show is coming up, and we can't wait to see all of you that are able to make it. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, look down in the description. We've put a link there, and you can jump over to their site and buy your tickets. We hope to see you there, and leave us a comment if you're going to be there. All right, now back to the rest of the video.
Okie dokie, so I called Dad over here to inspect what he expects on my fairing skills. So, let's go.
I think you did good. You got a little smear.
Yeah.
So she sanded, she ground out where there was a little bit of blistering or what have you. This is the original polyester portion of the boat. And when she sanded that out, then she sanded around it to get down to the barrier coat, because of course the barrier coat's epoxy and the fairing is epoxy. But see how you got a little bit on the bottom paint? It's not a big deal.
Sand it.
It's all right, you can sand it down. But no, if I look at it, you got a nice smooth transition through, and there's no divots where, so it looks like it's following the shape of the hull. Oh, you're sticky. There you go.
Elbows.
All right. All right, let's look over here. All right, I'm gonna make an attempt here. We have a little bit of light left. I'm gonna attempt, if I've got enough light, to drill and mount our spreader lights. So I've got 2 spreader lights that are gonna shine on either side of the mast, up and down to light up the mast when we're at anchor. And then I've got 2 floodlights that are gonna be pointed down towards the foredeck to light up the foredeck, so if we're picking up a mooring or having to do anything at night with the anchor or anything like that, we'll have a little bit better, I don't know, light to be able to see. So let's go drill some more holes in the mast.
And for those that don't know, what does that do?
This is a countersink, which bevels the top of the hole and takes off any burrs, so you get a nice chamfer where the bolt goes in. Okay, let's test it out. Get my ratchet. So heat shrinking and cutting and butt splicing wires isn't terribly exciting, but I did want to show you everybody how I did this. So there's 14 gauge wire that runs up to run the 3 circuits for the spreader lights. There's 2 lights that shine up the mast, 2 lights that shine down the mast, and then 2 lights that are floodlights for the foredeck. So all of that, because they're LED, are a fairly low draw, so 14 gauge Anchor wire is more than enough, but I need to be able to split and run them off to either side. So what I've done is a single wire comes up the mast to run, for example, this is gonna be, we'll call it the deck spreader light. I then, coming off of here, I'm using Anchor tinned copper wire, but this is not outdoor rated or UV rated, and I want to protect it from the sun so it doesn't break down. So I've spliced 2 wires into one to go to each spreader. Then I've put a piece of heat shrink over top of the butt splice connectors and glued that down to the insulation on either side. Then I run this chafe guard on the outside of that and put a piece of heat shrink on either end to seal that off to protect the shrink, the heat shrink. Then on each of these wires, I've run more chafe and UV guard, and I always seal the ends of that so it doesn't fray with a piece of heat shrink tube. And then you can see here, we go from 1 into 2, and now I'm gonna take this piece of heat shrink and go over, and if I've got any more juice left in my butane, oh no! All right, basically what ends up happening is I then have a very tight, secure, durable wire, protected wire assembly. All 3 of these are gonna go into yet another one of these chafe guards. So all you're gonna see is a black chafe guard protector that goes over all these wires and the radar wires and protects everything over top the mast against UV and chafe and exposure and all of that. So it's not very exciting, but that's what I've been doing for the last few hours, is all of this stuff.
I don't have any more butane here.
Wah, wah.
Okay, so you just put in the through bolt.
I did. I just put the through bolt in, and I'm just basically trial fitting this and dry fitting everything right now. And I'm going to make sure everything fits like intended before I tighten anything down or install the wire.
I could never settle down too far away from my hometown. With my family I am bound. I stick